flowers out of paper, so that she made a lot of flowers, and when she had a full basket, she took them into the street and sold them. She made flowers of many kinds, roses and lilies, and violets and snowdrops, and primroses and mignonette, and many beautiful sweet flowers that only grew in the country under the sunset. Some of them she could make without any pattern, but others she could not. So when she wanted a pattern, she took her basket of paper and scissors and paste and brushes, and all the things she used, and went into the garden which a kind lady owned, where there grew many beautiful flowers. There she sat down and worked away, looking at the flowers she wanted. Sometimes she was very sad, and her tears fell thick and fast as she thought of her dear dead mother. Often she seemed to feel that her mother was looking down at her, and to see her tender smile in the sunshine on the water. Then her heart was glad, and she sang so sweetly that the birds came around her and stopped their own singing to listen to her. She and the birds grew great friends, and sometimes, when she had sung a song, they would all cry out together, as they sat round her in a ring, in a few notes that seemed to say quite plainly, "Sing to us again! Sing to us again!" So she would sing again. Then she would ask them to sing, and they would sing till there was quite a concert. After a while the birds knew her so well that they would come into her room, and they even built their nests there, and they followed her wherever she went. And the people used to say, "Look at the girl with the birds. She must be half a bird herself, for see how the birds know and love her." From so many people coming to say things like this, some silly people actually believed that she was partly a bird, and they shook her heads when wise people laughed at them and said, "Indeed, she must be. Listen to her singing. Her voice is sweeter even than the birds." So a nickname was applied to her, and naughty boys called it after her in the street, and the nickname was Big Bird. But Zaya did not mind the name, and although often naughty boys said it to her meaning to cause her pain, she did not dislike it, but the contrary, for she so gloried in the love and trust of her little sweet-voiced pets that she wished to be thought like them. Indeed, it would be well for some naughty little boys and girls if they were as good and harmless as the little birds that work all day long for their helpless baby birds, building nests and bringing food, and sitting so patiently hatching their little speckled eggs. One evening, Zaya sat alone in her garret, very sad and lonely. It was a lovely summer's evening, and she sat in the window looking out over the city. She could see over the many streets towards the great cathedral, whose spire towered aloft into the sky, higher by far even than the great tower of the king's palace. There was hardly a breath of wind, and the smoke went up straight from the chimneys, getting further and fainter till it was lost altogether. Zaya was very sad. For the first time in many days her birds were all away from her at once, and she did not know where they had gone. It seemed to her as if they had deserted her, and she was so lonely, poor little maid, that she wept bitter tears. She was thinking of the story which long ago her dead mother had told her, how Prince Zephyr had slain the giant, and she wondered what the prince was like, and thought how happy the people must have been when Zephyr and Bluebell were king and queen. Then she wondered if there were any hungry children in those good days, and if, indeed, as the people said, there were no more giants. So she went on with her work before the open window. Presently, she looked up from her work and gazed across the city. There she saw a terrible thing, something so terrible that she gave a low cry of fear and wonder, and leaned out the window, shading her eyes with her hands to see more clearly. In the sky beyond the city she saw a vast, shadowy form with its arms raised. It was shrouded in a great misty robe that covered it, fading away into air so that she could only see the face and the grim, spectral hands. The form was so mighty that the city below it seemed like a child's toy. It was still far off the city. The little maid's heart seemed to stand still with fear as she thought to herself, "The giants, then, are not dead. This is another of them." Quickly she ran down the high stairs and out into the street. There she saw some people and cried to them, "Look, look, the giant, the giant!" and pointed towards the form which she still saw moving onwards to the city. The people looked up, but they could not see anything, and they laughed and said, "The child is mad." Then poor little Zaya was more than ever frightened, and ran down the street crying out still.